I don't know yet of anyone who's died from PMS. I know some people have had PMS who've killed some people, but that's different. To me, that's a particularly weak case to be making for the torturing of little creatures.
I'm not an advocate of anything illegal. I can only, as a journalist, look at the social forces that might contribute to this kind of behavior. And I see that when the mainstream media refuses to show the images of what's going on inside laboratories and factory farms, it creates a social condition that could lead some people to extreme behavior.
Every year, a score of 1 billion animals die so we can eat their dead bodies, so we can enjoy them jumping through hoops of fire and riding toy bicycles, so we can skin them and wear them, and because our palate is trained to crave their flesh, that all we need to do is be ever so polite and patient and just practice politics, and change will come when that's never happened in any other social justice movement, hands down, in the history of the world.
Throughout our history, there have always been those who have petitioned the government and wrote letters to legislators and politicians. There have even been those who have written bills and had discussions with the leaders of the nations. These tactics alone have never worked. The only time we have seen a social justice movement prevail has been because there was pressure from more radical factions. On the night of December 16, 1773, a group of people led by Samuel Adams and Paul Revere disguised themselves as Native Americans and boarded ships containing detained tea. They threw the tea into the harbor in protest against taxation. Adams and Revere were labeled terrorists by some and heroes by others. The suffragettes would chain themselves to railings, setting fire to the contents of mailboxes and smashing windows. The suffragettes evolved into the modern-day women's liberation movement, and is the reason women are now allowed to vote and no longer considered pieces of property. In the history of the world, what all of our social justice movements have in common is that they have faced government and community repression, including arrest, imprisonment, FBI and CIA investigations. They also share the commonality of having different factions within those movements. The most compelling example being the civil rights movement, wherein we had a leader advocating illegal activity in a peaceful manner, including nonviolent direct action and civil disobedience. But we also had another leader who advocated violence and absolute abolition at all costs. It was during this passionate time in our history that the President, John F. Kennedy, stated publicly, "Those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable." In 1960, Nelson Mandela led an organized guerrilla warfare against the white government in response to a group of peaceful demonstrators being massacred. In 1964, Mandela was convicted of sabotage and sentenced to life in prison. However, he was released in 1990. He was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1993. In 1994, Mandela was elected President of South Africa. A man once labeled a terrorist is now considered a freedom fighter.
I recognize that the things that I believe in very likely might take me away from being a father, from being with my son again. I might have to go back to jail. I might be killed. But that is part of being a warrior.
If breaking the law and going to prison has to be a part of that process, then it's something you have to prepare for. As with all people fighting for a liberation struggle or for social change, you have to accept that it's part of that process, that is our job, that is our task.
I mean, Martin Luther King said all that, you know, that you got to expect it, you know. It's a sign of how effective you're becoming, you know.
Like the women's movement, like those who fought against slavery, what we've done is we've made this movement, this animal liberation ethic, now become a part of mainstream society, and that's impossible to imagine that could have happened without organisations like the Animal Liberation Front and others who've used direct action.
And the system ain't going to sit back and let us do it, so they are going to demonise us. There's that saying, isn't there? First they'll ridicule you, then they'll attack you, and then only after that they'll accept you. We're the same people. This is the Animal Liberation Movement. We're about love and compassion. We've got an anger, we've got an edge. But you read about us now, and they want to, you know, they're starting to more and more, they're starting to call us terrorists.
You post on a website, or you say in a public lecture that you defend the Animal Liberation Front, that you support direct action, you are now considered to be an advocate and a voice for terrorism.
I've not done anything but have a goddamn website and a newsletter. Speech. I get 23 years in jail, possibly.
My girlfriend come back from Germany yesterday. They went to a fur demo, and on the way back they got pulled in and they were held under the Terrorism Act for 5 hours.
Let's applaud the FBI. Yay, cheer that. To cheer that is just like to spit and piss on the grave of Martin Luther King.
Throughout my years as an animal rights attorney, I've had the opportunity to meet several fabulous activists. I have met Kevin Jonas, who is the former president of SHAC, Stop Huntingdon Animal Cruelty. And I've actually represented SHAC on a few cases. I'm representing them now on a case. Kevin Jonas and other people are being federally indicted on charges coming out of the Animal Enterprise Protection Act. This is the first time anyone's been indicted under that federal act, claiming that these people are involved in a conspiracy. Recently, some FBI files were unsealed, and I was privy to them as an attorney and read that I have been investigated by the FBI since 2000.